Hello, everyone. My name is Wendy Myers. Welcome to this Facebook Live. I'm so excited you guys have joined me. I'm going to be talking about mold toxicity, and why mold so greatly impacts so many different people in addition to heavy metals. I'm a heavy metals expert, but I wanted to bring in mold to the conversation because I've suffered from mold issues before, and so many of you guys have also. So this is an important discussion to have about some of the symptoms that cause mold, some of the symptoms that cause metal, kind of comparing those two, which one is it? And also giving you some ideas about good tests for mold and mold solutions, like one of my very, very favorite solutions for mold, mycotoxins. So stay tuned for that. And I'm going to be answering all of your questions. I sent an email out to my email list talking about, asking like what questions you need answered. What are your pressing questions about mold? And we had such an overwhelming response. So many of you guys are questioning if you have mold issues or dealing with mold issues and need solutions. So I'm not going to be able to answer all of your questions today, but I'm going to get to as many as I can. And I'm going to have subsequent Facebook Lives about mold and solutions with Robert Marking, who's a friend of mine, who's an expert on mold, and also with Dr. Margaret Christensen, who was the host of the Toxic Mold Summit. So I spoke on the Toxic Mold Summit, namely about heavy metals and detoxification and some solutions for detox, because that's always going to be a part of the conversation that one needs to have. And it's interesting because when someone has mold toxicity, it does a number of different things. It inflames their immune system, but at the same time, it suppresses it. And so this causes, a twofold problem because there's all kinds of havoc being wreaked on the body. And it's interesting because mold releases what's called mycophenolinic acid. And this is one of the mycotoxins that's produced by mold. And that's also what's used when doctors do bone marrow transplants in people. When they're trying to kill off your immune system and suppress it, they use this mycophenolic acid. And so can you imagine what's that doing to your body? But mold can cause a lot of different symptoms. So a mold can cause chronic sinus infections because you breathe in the mold when you're exposed in your home or when you walk into a building, a moldy home. And so the mold colonizes in your sinuses, and then the mold mycotoxins or the mold poop then is, absorbed in through your sinuses into your brain and causes this, what's called SIRS, the systemic inflammatory response in the body. And so it causes inflammation, all these different symptoms that I'm going to be talking about. So any kind of mystery illness, so something the doctors aren't figuring out, because most conventional doctors, their mold is just not on their radar. So they are just not testing for that. Any kind of chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, chronic pain, because inflammation is caused by, chronic pain is caused by inflammation. And then postural orthostatic tachycardia, where when you stand up really quickly, you can black out or get, racing heart rate. That's really common. Recurrent UTIs or interstitial cystitis, where you just have a chronic irritation in the bladder area. Mold will knock out your anti-diuretic hormone. So you have to constantly pee and go to the bathroom all the time. That can drive people nuts. One solution I have for that is something called Crystal Energy. You get it on Amazon. That's a great thing to structure your water, and then you actually retain and absorb the water. That's one of the tricks I use for that, lack of anti-diuretic hormone, which is being knocked out by mold or even knocked out by mercury toxicity as well. And so fatigue is a common issue because mold disrupts mitochondrial energy production, but so do heavy metals like arsenic, aluminum, tin, thallium, and cesium. So both of those disrupt mitochondrial energy production. And then mold can also cause hormonal challenges, whether it's endometriosis, infertility, PMS. But metals also do that. You know, mercury and lead and cadmium and nickel also will poison enzymes that produce hormones and convert them into other hormones. And then molds trigger autoimmune issues because they suppress the immune system. And it causes this kind of catch-22 where it screws up, molds screw up your immune system functioning and signaling, but also people that are susceptible to mold symptoms, like, because two people can walk into a moldy building and one person is fine, the other starts having symptoms and gets very ill. Well, why is that? So some people have a genetic susceptibility whereby their immune system just doesn't really work very well for various reasons. I just did a podcast today with Michael McAvoy. We talked about the RCCX, genes, and how people have that kind of gene phenotype. Their immune system is going to not be very responsive, and they're going to be more susceptible to mold and mold mycotoxin symptoms. And so molds can also trigger histamine issues and food intolerances, where you eat a certain food or maybe they have a high histamine food and your cells just have this immune response. They release cytokines and inflammation, and you get food intolerance symptoms, chronic inflammation, runny nose, throat clearing, and all kinds of different uncomfortable histamine reactions. And then mold can also cause brain fog. But we've also established, heavy metals can cause brain fog also. All different kinds of metals, mercury, aluminum, lead. There's all kinds of neurophilic heavy metals that also interrupt nerve signaling transmission, neurotransmission, and cognition and memory and things like that. And mold also causes psychiatric issues, very well known to trigger bipolar disorder or schizophrenia or other issues. And then mold can also promote different forms of dementia or neurological issues. And metals do that also. Metals are proven to, like aluminum, promote Alzheimer's. Mercury can promote Alzheimer's as well. So which one is it? Is it mold or is it heavy metals? So some people get a little bit ill from mold and other people get really, really sick. So part of that depends on your genetics or other exposures. And it can also depend on your total body burden of heavy metals and chemicals, because both of these things, for lack of a better term, stuff up your detox pathways. So they place a burden on your liver because a lot of toxic mold symptoms can be the same as heavy metal toxicity symptoms. So even though you may suspect mold, your symptoms can also clearly be caused by heavy metals as well, because symptoms are usually never just one single isolated issue. So one other thing I wanted to talk about is that, one of the biggest issues with mold is that people that are symptomatic or that are symptomatic have compromised immune systems typically, because the mold either takes out their immune system and suppresses it, or they're genetically, their immune system is not working very well. So in this case, since the immune system is not doing its job of removing mold, identifying, removing mold mycotoxins, it's completely, the liver and biliary system has the sole responsibility of having to deal with all of the mold mycotoxins and processing them. So it's really, really important if you suspect mold, you're going to have a compromised ability to detox heavy metals as well. And so we have to address both of these issues at the same time to effectively deal with both of them. And I also wanted to talk about how the mycotoxins excreted by mold can be very taxing on some people's delicate systems. So these mycotoxins, or mold poop, stuff up all of your liver detox pathways and your lymph. So they tax your liver, which has to break down and remove them. So as long as your body is dealing with mold, your ability to detox heavy metals is compromised, because heavy metals are also broken down by the body and removed through the same pathways as mold mycotoxins. So while you have mold, say you lived in a moldy home 20 years ago and the mold is still colonizing your body, that entire time, your body's ability to detox metals may have been compromised, where you can build up these metals in your body, and over time, the mold and the metals are making you sicker and sicker and sicker, because heavy metals are potent metabolic, hormonal, and mitochondrial poisons in your system, and they're just going to have fewer and fewer escape routes if you have mold toxicity. And so, and then another issue with mold is mold can cause all kinds of inflammation, even SIRS, which is systemic inflammatory response syndrome. And so this totally knocks out your ability to hold on to water. It knocks out your ADH, or anti-diuretic hormones. So people become chronically dehydrated as a result of mold toxicity. And this dehydration component also interferes in your ability to detox heavy metals and chemicals. And dehydration also causes pain and other health issues. So that's just kind of a simple kind of, 101 about some of the symptoms that mold causes, and, kind of illustrating a picture as to which is what's the problem. Is it mold, or is it heavy metals, or is it both? I think it's safe to assume that if you suspect mold symptoms, you also need to suspect heavy metals as well, because statistically, everyone has aluminum toxicity. We're breathing it in the air. Everyone has lead toxicity because it was just released into the atmosphere for decades with leaded gasoline usage, and that lead settled in the soils, and it's still in our food supply, in even food-based supplements. It's just ubiquitous in our environment, in fruits and vegetables and animal proteins as well. And then all the fish supply is contaminated with mercury and cadmium. So most people have mercury, most people have some level of cadmium, and thallium. Most people have some level of thallium. That's a naturally occurring metal in petroleum deposits. So all of the car exhaust and smog that we're all breathing in every day, and that's being spewed from all the factories in China and all over the world, all those metals travel throughout our weather systems and gets into our atmosphere. So we're all, one on this planet Earth, and sharing toxins through all of our various industrial practices. So what do you do? So what is a solution to this? So right now we're going to be focusing on mold, because I know a lot of you guys have mold questions and symptoms. So if you guys missed any part of this presentation, once I'm done talking, Facebook will start the video over again. So once I'm finished, it'll take a couple minutes to load up to the Facebook page on Myers Detox. Go to facebook.com/Myers Detox, where you are now, and the video will start over momentarily. So what we were talking about are mold symptoms, and relating that to heavy metals as well. The same symptoms for mold can also be symptoms of heavy metal toxicity. So you want to be thinking about addressing both of those things. So if you suspect that you have mold, one of the best tests for mold mycotoxins, which is mold poop or the excretions of mold, is the Great Plains mycotoxins test. So that's one that I recommend if you want to get a hint as to what type of mold may be colonizing your body. So it's not the mold itself that causes symptoms, it's the mold mycotoxins that your body then has to deal with. And then on top of that, if you have a lot of EMF exposure, then the mycotoxin excretion can be increased 3, 4, 5, 6 times what it normally would be without the EMF exposure, like from your wireless internet. So some people can be extremely sensitive to EMS for that reason. But let's talk about some mold detox solutions, because I know you guys were on the Toxic Mold Summit. You probably got a lot of solutions, but a lot of the solutions for mold, frankly, suck. A lot of them don't work very well, and it can be very frustrating dealing with mold. I've actually sold my home because it had mold, and I moved, and I'm in a house now that it's all hardwood floors. It's a newer home, and I feel so much better now that I moved into this drier climate by the beach, all hardwood floors. They're just, this is a brand new house. There's no attic in the house. It's there's just no place for mold, and I feel 1,000 times better. So what do you do if you have mold? I mean, it can be very, very frustrating, and a lot of the solutions don't really work very well, short of just completely leaving your environment, which is not possible for some people. So one of my #1 favorite mold detox solutions is a supplement. It's called Catalyst Foundation. And so this is what the product looks like right here. And this is just an absolute revolution for mold mycotoxins and other types of infections. A lot of people with mold have Lyme and Lyme co-infections and other types of issues as well. And they have compromised immune systems, so they're more prone to opportunistic infections and like candida and parasites and things like that. And this is interesting. It's all natural. Catalyst Foundation is made with plant esters. And what it does is it goes into the cells, and the plant esters latch onto anything that has a low sodium marker. So anything that isn't supposed to be in your cell, like an infection or a mold mycotoxin, attaches to it and dissolves it, and leaves almost no residue whatsoever, though I do recommend taking a binder with it. But the cells, the healthy parts of the cells, the mitochondria and ribosomes and other different organelles and structure of the cells have high sodium markers. So those are left untouched. And so this is just completely revolutionary in how it works and why it's so, so effective. Because it just attaches on to these low sodium marker infections and mold mycotoxins and just dissolves them. And so it has really no side effects whatsoever when you're taking it. Most people will notice they start having some yeasty smelling gas. That's the candida that's dying off, which a lot of people have. When I first started taking it, I had a lot of candida die off. I don't have that anymore. This is something I take on a daily basis because I've just had such incredible results with it. And I highly, highly recommend it for anyone that's dealing with mold issues or suspects mold issues. So I'm going to leave a link for this in the comments. So you guys are probably wondering, like, where do I get this? So I'll leave a link for it in the comments. I also did a podcast with the maker of this. His name is Kevin Newsom, and he's been making this for about 15 years. I mean, he just has thousands of testimonials of how this has helped them. Because one thing also regarding mold is that the mold colonizes in the sinuses. So people can tend to have chronic sinus infections, chronic runny noses, when they have mold colonization in their sinuses. And what you can do is you can take this, you can put a few drops in your sinuses, and it just kills off everything that's in there. And this has clove in it, so it can be a little bit numbing when you do that, but it does work really, really well. You can take it internally as well. You can also put it on your skin or any of the mucous membranes. It's just plant esters, it's totally natural. So you can use it for, like, really, like I said, any type of infection or rash or anything, because it will just kill all of the infection. So if anyone wants to learn more from Kevin Newsom, who's the maker of this, he talks in a podcast I did with him about exactly how this works, all the different issues that it can address, including mold and mold mycotoxins. You can listen to that podcast in its entirety right here. I just pasted that link in the comment section as well. And so no talk about mold would be complete without talking about binders. So this is a great product to take, but sometimes it can be warranted to also take a binder with a product like this, or if you have mold or mold mycotoxins that you suspect, or even heavy metals as well. And a binder is just a substance that will absorb mycotoxins, chemicals, metals, and then you excrete it out through the urine. And so one of my favorite binders is modified citrus pectin. and really, really effective. There's about 50 university studies that show it's really, really effective for all different kinds of metals and chemicals, including mold mycotoxins. And so one of my product I recommend is called CitraCleanse. This is a modified citrus pectin that works fantastic for mold mycotoxins. It can be used in conjunction with Catalyst Foundation. And I forgot to mention the dosage for Catalyst Foundation. You want to do about 1 dropper full in a little bit of water. So you'd only use about, say, this much water, and then put about 1 whole dropper full of the Catalyst Foundation in the water, drink it down, and then drink a whole glass of water like this afterwards, because you just really want to wash it down and clear out any of the residue in your throat, because this is very, very potent stuff. It's strong. So you want to make sure you wash it down. You do not want to put the Catalyst Foundation directly into your mouth. You want to make sure it's a little bit diluted, and then you rinse your mouth out with it as well, by drinking a glass of water. You can take up to 4 dropperfuls a day. Like if you are really ill and you really need symptom relief, you can do 4 doses of this, 4 dropperfuls per day, 4 times throughout the day. So it's 4 dropperfuls total in a 24-hour period. That is also great if you have a chronic infection or are very ill and you need to start getting results right away. That's something that you can do as well. Because I know you guys heard a lot of mold solutions on the Toxic Mold Summit, and a lot of them just aren't very effective, and it can be very frustrating to spend a lot of money on different products and things that really may not be terribly effective. But this stuff is really, there's nothing like it on the market. It's just something I'm getting absolutely incredible results with my personal clients that I work with to detox heavy metals with. And this is my go-to. Personally, if I have parasites or candida, or that's how I dealt with my mold symptoms. I'm totally mold symptom free. And because I sold my home and then I moved into another moldy home that was even worse. And then I finally got out of there in a few months when I realized how bad the mold problem was. And this is what saved me, seriously. And so I highly recommend this to anyone for a multitude of reasons. But it also is great because if you have a candida, like a vaginal yeast infection, this will knock it out in 1 dose. If you have a UTI infection, 1 dose. This will knock it out. Sometimes, 2 doses if it's a bad UTI. If I ever get a cold, I'm traveling, I start getting like the tickle in my throat, I do 1 dose of this. It just knocks it out. I was in Mexico over the holidays, and I got, Mexico, you get food poisoning. Typically, it just bugs your system as it used to in the water and the food that the locals are used to. So you start to get kind of loose stools. This just kills any type of infection. It's just unbelievable. I never leave home without this stuff. So I highly recommend that. And now that I've stated my case about, talking a little bit to you guys about, is it mold or is it heavy metals? I wanted to answer some of your questions. And it's also really, really important to be thinking about detoxification. So if you are suffering from mold symptoms and you identify with any of the symptoms that I kind of listed in our talk, so I notated that mold can cause, brain fog, chronic sinus infections, mystery illness, fibromyalgia, recurrent infections, namely UTIs, hormonal issues, hormonal imbalances, low hormone production, autoimmune issues, food intolerances, brain fog, dementia. All of those things can also be caused by heavy metals. So you want to be thinking about detoxing your body as well at some point. And I have a lot of information on MyersDetox.com and the Myers Detox podcast on my site, MyersDetox.com, to give you a lot of solutions and be thinking about heavy metal detoxification at some point. So let's go to your questions now that you have. So I'm going to start at the beginning, so just to be fair. So Lynn, hi Wendy, I love your website, enjoy your presentations and the various wonderful summits you've participated in. Thank you for teaching all of us so many important lessons. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure. I love waking up and doing what I do every day. I always have so much fun learning and then teaching you guys also. So Marty, so how do I view the video? Okay, sorry, I was a couple minutes late to the video. So we're on now. So Valerie, very interested in mold issues. Thank you for covering this. Kelly, what is the best medical test to check for mold in the urine? So we don't really check for mold. You're checking for mold mycotoxin. So the best mold mycotoxin test is the Great Plains Lab. It's certainly not the only test, but that's the best one that I recommend. There's other labs like real-time labs also, but I like the Great Plains Lab to test for mold mycotoxins. So the binder that I love for mold mycotoxins is CitraCleanse. This is on myersdetox.com. You guys can see a link for it at store.myersdetox.com. You can find it there. You can also exclusively get Catalyst Foundation as well on store.myersdetox.com. And I pasted the link earlier in the show. So Denise just had a mold test for my house. Yikes. Yeah, unfortunately, mold is just so prevalent today. I mean, it's estimated that 70% of homes have mold. I have a friend of mine that I've talked to on occasion, and he actually got funding to create mold testing, really sensitive mold testing equipment. And he was shocked when he found out that 70% of mold homes have mold, and buildings also. So I know a lot of people get sick from their workplace as well. They're in a good home environment. They work really hard to create this amazing home environment, and then their office area and their work environment makes them ill. So that's something to consider as well. One thing that I use is this Breathe Safe. It's like a personal air filter. Bring it over here. It's this personal air filter. You can also find this on store.myersdetox.com. It's called a Breathe Safe, and this will filter mold. It will kill mold and other toxins in the environment. And you can actually, put it like on your body, almost wearing it like a fanny pack. If you're going into buildings, you're going into workplace, and there's mold, or you're trying to prevent another mold exposure, you can wear this thing, and it's just filtering your personal airspace. And it also runs on a battery pack. It doesn't have to be plugged in. This thing is so cool. I love it, and really a game changer, especially for people really sensitive to air pollution and mold. So that thing is key. And if you want to learn more about that one, I just did a podcast with the inventor of the Breathe Safe in this podcast. So you can we talk about the Breathe Safe on this podcast. So I'll put that here. Breathe Safe air filter for mold and other things. So I just put the comment there so you guys can get that. So let's see, other questions here. Ron, what is the best lab test for blood test for mold or mold mycotoxin? So that's definitely the urine test by Great Plains Lab that I recommend. And so Susan, what is the difference between Catalyst Foundation and other nature mold products like activated charcoal, optifibrilline? So the difference between those is that there are binders that absorb mold mycotoxins. The Catalyst Foundation actually identifies them and dissolves them. So it attaches onto anything that has a low sodium marker that's not supposed to be in your body and dissolves it without any kind of trace or residue. And so binders are effective. Like activated charcoal is very effective for a lot of things, but there are a lot of negative side effects. There's no negative side effects to Catalyst Foundation. So charcoal is indiscriminatory. So it's going to absorb nutrients and minerals and other things that your body needs, where Catalyst Foundation is not a binder, doesn't absorb things like a sponge. It just identifies toxins and it dissolves them. And so that's the difference. That's why it's more effective. And it's also doing triple, quadruple duty by addressing candida, infections of all kinds, and parasites as well. So binders do not do that. Activated charcoal instead of citrocleanse. Yes, you can. So you can rotate activated charcoal instead of citrocleanse for mold mycotoxins, but activated charcoal is something I would use on occasion, maybe once a week if you have an acute exposure or having a lot of symptoms. You can use it, but it's not something you want to take on a daily basis because it is indiscriminatory. It does absorb nutrients and minerals. That's the last thing that you want. You need your nutrients. People today are very nutrient and mineral deficient. We do not want to do anything that is promoting that even further. So the citrocleanse is amazing because it is not it's not discriminatory. Like it is discriminatory rather. So it's leaving your minerals intact. It'll absorb a little bit of the minerals, but it's not nearly as potent as charcoal or activated charcoal in absorbing nutrients and minerals. So let's see. So other questions. So this is about just, Susan has some questions about how to take all the products, which I kind of already mentioned. So with the citrocleanse, you take about 1 scoop a day, about an hour away from food and supplements and medication. And this you would take about once per day, but you can take it up to 4 times per day as well. And so Kelly, so what is, you tested positive for mycoplasma, but not at this time, only in the past. So, so what is the test for mycotoxins? So yes, so I talked about the Great Plains Lab is great for mycotoxins. And so Mary, so when receiving a Myers cocktail IV followed by IV glutathione, should I be taking binders before and after? And if so, which binders? I cannot tolerate Wi-Fi. So if you are doing an IV cocktail, the Myers cocktail is like a lot of vitamin C and glutathione. Those are all great for detoxification. Yeah, I think people should be taking binders no matter what they're doing, any kind of detox protocol, or even if they're not doing a detox protocol, they should be taking binders to detox. Because we're all exposed on a daily basis to metals and chemicals. So it makes sense to do a binder. And most people can tolerate a binder. Even if they can't tolerate a detox, if they've tried detoxes and they're too sick to do so, they can still tolerate a binder. And everyone can tolerate Catalyst Foundation. I haven't had any people have negative reactions to this. I've only had super positive results. And just the testimonials have just been pouring in about how their symptoms are relieving, their nose has stopped running, their brain is like getting online again, and how much better they feel. And I personally can testify to that as well. This stuff is unbelievable. But it's always a good idea to take a binder as well. So the next question is by Jody. Thanks so much for joining us. So what binder would you recommend for a 3-year-old using Catalyst Foundation? So again, the citrocleanse, this is safe for children and babies. It's just citrus peels. It's the citrus pectin from citrus peels that has been modified or broken down into smaller chains so that it not only detoxes the gut, but it gets into the bloodstream, passes through the intestinal wall, gets into the bloodstream, and cleans your blood of mycotoxins and heavy metals and chemicals for 12 hours after you ingest it. So that's a great thing. A lot of binders only stay in your gut and don't pass the gut walls. So that's great. We want binders in our gut to remove metals and chemicals, but we also need binders in our blood as well. And that's why I like citrocleanse. So next question, Elda. So is this product recommended for children too? Yes, both Catalyst Foundation and the CitraCleanse can be used safely for children. They're all natural. They are plant-based. There is no contraindications whatsoever for age or health conditions whatsoever. So next question, Sheena, thanks so much for joining us. So is there any issues taking this binder if you have a histamine intolerance? I have not had any reports of people with histamine issues having histamine reactions after taking Catalyst or CitraCleanse. So anything is possible. I mean, there's always someone that reacts to something. There's always someone that's sensitive to something in a product. There's no product that's 100% immune to people developing a sensitivity to it. So for some people, CitraCleanse, they have some GI issues. They might have constipation or diarrhea or bloating following CitraCleanse. That's just a few percentage of people. And certainly people can have some like reactions when they take Catalyst Foundation, like they typically get gas. It's kind of like fart magic, if you will, because when you first start taking it, I mean, it gets to work. I mean, within an hour, you are having yeasty smelling gas because you are having a candida die-off, and it's a kind of a yeasty smelling gas. And so don't take it if you are in a home or with someone that you may not want to be exposing to your yeasty smelling gas. So you want to reserve the beginning of usage of Catalyst Foundation when you are maybe have a little private time for yourself. So next question. So Denise, so do we take the Solaris along with the modified citrus pectin? Yes. So they can be not at the same time. You typically don't. Uh-oh, the sound's not working. So I hear, uh-oh. Well, seems like, can you guys hear me right now? Because someone told me the sound's not working. Hopefully that's not their computer. So I think other people can hear me, hopefully. Can someone leave a comment? Can you guys hear me? Yes or no? Just so I know whether to continue. We had some camera issues. Okay, you guys can hear me. Yes, perfect. So it might be that person's individual computer. So as far as taking the Catalyst Foundation, I always recommend taking binders no matter what. I love Catalyst Foundation for mold and other issues, infections. But yes, they can be taken together. Not at the same time, though. I recommend taking this CitraCleanse 30 minutes to an hour away from any other food, nutrients, medications, supplements, and then take this one, take Catalyst Foundation, at any time during the day that you have some private time. So next question here. Let me find out where I was with the questions. And the next one is Alice. Alice Ron, thanks for joining us. So the name of the binder, again, is called CitraCleanse. And Sheena, so do you have to take glutathione or use the infrared sauna prior to a mycotoxin test? Not to my knowledge. I mean, when you have mold, you're going to have mycotoxins coming out in your urine. And so I'm sure there's things you can do to facilitate and increase the excretion of mold mycotoxins. But to my knowledge, I honestly don't know the answer to that question. But I think I love infrared saunas. I'm a huge fan. I definitely highly recommend those for improving different aspects of your immune system functioning and detoxing heavy metals and chemicals for sure. Next question here, Kristen. So would you recommend also to heat up with an infrared sauna along with this protocol? Yes, absolutely. But also infrared sauna use depends on your ability to tolerate heat and or infrared saunas. So some people are just simply too ill to tolerate infrared saunas. So I recommend people to try one out. You can do one for 5 or 10 minutes just to test it out and kind of see where you are, see if you tolerate it or not. And some people just aren't ready for that. We have to, when it comes to detoxification or mold mycotoxin detox, we have to meet your body where you're at. Where it's not about, oh, this is what Wendy said, so let's just go do this 100% because she said that's what we need to detox. No, you have to do and you have to do the detox your body is ready to do and meet your body where it's at. Because sometimes you just have to do baby steps. And this is where it can be important to work with a trained detox expert when you're considering doing detoxification, because there's a lot of, different minds in the minefield, so to speak, that you need to navigate, especially if you have chronic illness, you have mold issues, or you have multiple health diagnoses. So that's something to consider. But when it comes to infrared saunas, I recommend people, if you don't have one, go try one. There's lots of franchise chains out there in the larger cities of infrared sauna places where you can go and try an infrared sauna for yourself. Usually there's a little shower in the same room as an infrared sauna, and it's really amazing thing to do for yourself and your health. And it's never too late to begin doing an infrared sauna, or never too early in your detox program. But when you're doing an infrared sauna or any other type of detox protocol, I recommend taking binders. So, you can take a binder, the same day within 12 hours of taking my CitraCleanse, but you can also take it 30 minutes before, and it really helps to mop up all of the toxins being released from your cells from the infrared sauna session, which is just increasing the rate in which your body is releasing toxins than if you just heat it up normally, if like sitting in the sun and heating up. The infrared rays heat you up from the inside out. They penetrate your tissues in your body, and they just facilitate in many different ways the release of toxins from your cells and your fat as well, where a lot of toxins are stored. So, Kristen, so also with lymph problems, does this Catalyst Foundation address the flow issue with lymph very much? Or is there something else that might be helpful? So no, Catalyst Foundation does not encourage lymph flow, but it will help anywhere in your body, including the lymph, dissolve toxins, dissolve any kind of issue, any area in your body where you have infections or chemicals or toxins that are not supposed to be in your cells. It will clean that up. It will clean up your lymph, but it won't get it flowing. So to do that, you can use dry brushing. You can do walking. Just walking gets your lymph flowing, gets your circulation going. Do rebounding. Those are all really, really helpful. But before I do an infrared sauna, I start every session with a natural bristle, skin brushing. That's one of the best things you can do for lymph flow. And also lymphatic massage, lymphatic drainage massage is wonderful. You can have your partner do that as well. And it's just very simple. It's just rubbing the skin with some oil towards the heart. It's not rocket science. Anyone can do it. And you can have your employer or kids to do it also, or go to a spa that specializes in massage to do lymphatic drainage, which I do on a regular basis. That's part of my health routine. Is at least once a month I go to a Korean spa and get the crap beat out of me, basically, if I have very, very strong Korean women. And I love that. It's a really important part of removing toxins from my connective tissue, my muscles, get my lymph flowing, and really get into that parasympathetic nervous system state to facilitate detoxification. Thanks so much for all of you do. You're one of the best speakers on the Mold Summit. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I love what I do. I love educating people about heavy metal toxicity, but the mold is also on my radar as well, because there's so many overlapping symptoms. Is it mold or is it heavy metals? So the symptoms can be very much the same. And so people can be confused. They hear me speak about heavy metals, like, oh, I need to go do that. And they hear the toxic mold symptom, oh, maybe I have mold and I need to go do that. So what do you do? What do you start with? There's some protocols, detox protocols that I recommend that also help to facilitate mold detoxification as well. And these are my two little secret weapons, like I said, for addressing mold, and infrared saunas as well are very, very helpful, as well as coffee enemas. Those are great as well, because those really help facilitate liver function to help break down and release mold mycotoxins into the bile, coffee enemas increase bile production, and bile is the best binder on the planet, and that's needed to, get rid of mold mycotoxins as well. And so someone just asked me what is the crystal structuring product I mentioned. So on Amazon, it's called Crystal Energy by Patrick Flanagan. So if you go on Amazon and just type in Crystal Energy, that is the drops that I put in my water to dramatically increase retention of water, because so many people are not making enough anti-diuretic hormone. And because of that, they're not retaining water. They're drinking water and drinking, and they're just peeing. And I mean, I used to constantly feel like I had to go to the bathroom, and it just drove me nuts. And I realized at some point it was mercury toxicity that was inducing that. And as I detoxed my mercury, I didn't really have that feeling anymore. But I just felt like I was chronically dehydrated, even though I was constantly drinking water. And so I did a lot of research into this. And number one, I realized I needed to drink properly filtered water and/or spring water. So now I primarily drink spring water, but I also make sure I cook with filtered water. I like Pure Effects water filters. Pure Effects makes great water filters and well water filters as well. Many people drinking well water without filtering it. That's a big no-no. A lot of metals in well water. But a lot of people, just because if they have mold or they have heavy metals like mercury, they are just not retaining water. And many people they don't have enough minerals in their diet. Really, really important to have salts and minerals to retain water. That's why I would say when you go to a restaurant, you eat a really salty meal. And, if you notice maybe the next day you wake up and your fingers are swollen and you kind of feel bloated a little bit, well, guess what? That's the salt retaining all the water. Like, you want that, but not, such a drastic reaction. But you have to have a lot of minerals in your diet. That's why I just had some fresh carrot juice that I made here. And I drink lots of celery juice and other types of vegetable juices to mineralize my body, concentrate those minerals in the juices and drink those. That helps with mineral retention. But one of my greatest biohacks I use is this Crystal Energy by Patrick Flanagan that you get on Amazon. So next questions here. So next one. So Kimberly, so the Breathe Safe sounds awesome. It is. I love this little thing. It's what I use to kind of clean my local atmosphere, if you will, my personal biosphere. But I also use it in my infrared sauna, because when you're in an infrared sauna, you are releasing all kinds of toxins that you then breathe in. And that really doesn't make a lot of sense. So I use the Breathe Save. I have one in my infrared sauna to clean up my indoor air while I'm detoxing. So I think that's really important as well. So let's see. So the Catalyst Foundation IDs and dissolves mold. It doesn't dissolve mold. It dissolves mold mycotoxin. So does it cause the dead mold to release mycotoxin? So no, it doesn't. So what it does is it binds on to the mold mycotoxins and just dissolves them instantly. And so Kevin Newsom talks a little bit about this in the podcast that I posted. I'll post it again here. But Kevin Newsom really probably does a better job of explaining it than I do. But I will leave that comment right here for you guys. So you guys, I highly, highly recommend listening to this podcast. It's amazing. So let's go to the next question here. So Jody, so a 3-year-old has a vaginal yeast infection that causes frequent UTI, frequent urination for several weeks. She's been to the doctor twice and has a clean, low-acid diet. She's been on Catalyst Foundation for a week. Do you think a binder could help? Yeah, well, so here's the thing. It just depends on what type of UTI it is, or it might not be a UTI that she has. It also might not be a vaginal yeast infection. So if you're taking the Catalyst Foundation internally, for most infections, it will relieve that. You can also take the Catalyst Foundation and put it directly on the mucous membranes. But Catalyst Foundation also makes a product called Derma 180 or Derma 180. You can do a search on the internet for that. It's kind of like a foam. It's the Catalyst Foundation in a foam. And that can be, that's what I would use. I put it on my underarms for deodorant, but that can also be put on your vagina and on your anus to kill off yeast infections externally. So it just really depends. I don't really know exactly what's going on with her. But Catalyst Foundation usually is going to be really, really helpful for a lot of different types of infections. But again, I really don't know what exactly 100% is going on with her, but usually that will help. I don't know if a binder is going to help any type of vaginal yeast infection or frequent urination. Sometimes aluminum detox will cause bladder irritation and that urgency to go. My daughter definitely had that. So sometimes that can be aluminum detox, and sometimes the catalyst, because you're releasing so many toxins, that can cause, you know, a little bit of irritation, bladder irritation. So that could be what it's from. Even though maybe the infection has reduced, you might still have some symptoms in that respect. But again, I can only speculate, so I apologize. So Talisha, so for 4 years, my hair analysis shows bottomed out sodium and potassium levels, even after following diets and supplements. So since my sodium level is 1, is it still safe for me to take Catalyst Foundation? So absolutely, Catalyst Foundation is really only going to help you. So what you've been in, and if you're doing HTMA for 4 years, and you're in what's called 4 lows, that's a low sodium, potassium, and perhaps low calcium, magnesium. What I find is that there's some people that their adrenals just aren't recovering. They're not absorbing nutrients very well. So you might be taking a lot of supplements, but you're not absorbing nutrients. And so when that is a factor with people, I usually will recommend our Nest Health Bioenergetic program. And within a few months, they're absorbing nutrients much, much better. This is a big problem with a lot of clients that I've worked with, is that they're like yourself, for years and years and years taking all kinds of supplements, and yet the mineral levels on their hair test are not increasing. And so a lot of people have absorption issues. They have stress. There's a lot of things working against our gut. There's metals like cadmium and mercury that kill good bacteria in our gut, that foster and promote the growth of pathogenic bacteria and candida and parasites. Mercury and copper promote candida and parasite overgrowth in the gut. But again, people they have glyphosate, they have other things that are antibiotics and work like antibiotics, killing off good gut bacteria. And so they have issues absorbing nutrients. So Nest Health is one of the best things for that, to heal the gut and get reducing stress, get people sleeping better and absorbing nutrients. And then I find that the minerals increase on a hair tissue mineral analysis. But also for the sodium level, for the potassium level, what you may be missing is activated silica, because activated silica detoxes thallium and cesium. And thallium and cesium block potassium channels in the cells, and they also displace potassium in the muscle tissue. So anyone having constant cramps and they're taking potassium and they're not getting relief, it's because they have thallium and cesium in their tissues displacing the potassium. So they're taking it, but it's not getting to the muscle tissue. So that's what's going on there. But on a hair tissue mineral analysis, if you have thallium toxicity, you're going to consistently have a low potassium on a hair mineral analysis. And over time, taking activated silica, which is this product right here, it's called a Myers Detox Activated Silica. That's going to detox the thallium and cesium over time, taken in conjunction with the Myers Detox Citra Cleanse. And that's the best kind of 1-2 punch for thallium and cesium to eventually raise your potassium levels. But also, if you have chronic stress that maybe you just can't get out of your stressful situation, or you're chronically ill, sodium, potassium on a hair mineral analysis reflect aldosterone and cortisol production. They're very, very highly correlated to adrenal cortisol salivary tests and urinary tests as well. It's very highly correlated, the sodium potassium on a hair test, to salivary cortisol. So it's a sign that your adrenals are still fatigued and not working very well, not producing stress hormones adequately. So that's a factor you have to think about as well. So next question. Let's see. So let's see. Lots of little questions here. And so Aubrey, is it possible to have neurological candida die off from the catalyst? I don't really know about neurological candida. Not really sure what you mean exactly by that. But the catalyst will kill off candida anywhere in your body. I know over time, when you're ingesting the candida, it does penetrate a lot of different tissues. But I can't really answer that question. I apologize. So tardigrade. So I can't be in an infrared sauna for more than 10 minutes without feeling like I'm going to faint. So that's common. I mean, you have to do the amount of sauna time that your body can tolerate. And for some people, that's only a few minutes, and you just keep at it and you just work your way up. And so for some people, they're just really sensitive to heat, or they're very, very toxic. They can only handle so much detox at a time. So you have to listen to your body. Normally I recommend people do 30 to 45 minutes in a sauna, but I get out when I'm feeling kind of woozy or faint or lightheaded. That's your body telling you it's time to get out. And so very, very important also to hydrate while you're in the sauna. I love drinking coconut water, that's raw coconut water, not pasteurized, organic. So it's not dipped in formaldehyde. That's really, really important while you're in an infrared sauna, but also on a regular basis, taking minerals to replete any minerals you may be losing while you're sweating in a sauna. So just keep at it. Over time, usually can increase the amount of time you're in the sauna. So can I use a Catalyst Foundation for my 4-year-old daughter, specifically in her eyes? Yes, you can put Catalyst Foundation in the eyes. She's not going to like you because there is some clove in, a little bit of clove essential oil in the Catalyst Foundation, but you can use it for infections in the eyes. If you want more specific instructions, I would contact Kevin at solairesplants.com for specific instructions on that. Let's see. So Kristen, do you recommend anything additional for slow methylators? So I really can't answer that question. It's just, that's just a very broad question. Genetics is very, very complex. Methylation is very, very complex. So really too general a question for me to answer. So Lisa, can you please tell us to repeat how much of the drops of the catalyst to take per serving? So I recommend just doing 1 dropper full. It doesn't have to be exact. That's a normal dosage for most people. Some people if you know you're really, really sensitive to supplements, or you're very, very ill, you may want to just start with just a few drops, just test the water, see how you do with that. You can always titrate up and increase the dose. But I usually do about 1 full dropper full in a tiny little glass of water, and then drink more water after that. So Jody, if the recommended dose of Catalyst Foundation doesn't seem to be getting rid of vaginal yeast infections in a 3-year-old, can the dosage be increased? Yes, you can absolutely increase the dosage, and you can increase the number of times per day that she's taking it. You may just have to get a little bit more aggressive. And there's also, like I said, I just don't know exactly what's going on with her. There's different types of fungal infections. There's different types of yeast infections that people have. So maybe she's just not getting a large enough dose, even if she's taking Catalyst. It may not just be enough or often enough. So yeah, you can definitely increase the dose. This is perfectly safe. It's plant esters. You can't OD on it. You just don't want to take too much that's too taxing on your system. So next question here, Connie. So do you need to treat mold first or heavy metals first, or can you treat them at the same time? And also when to treat parasites. So here's the thing. You can address mold and heavy metals at the same time, because what I've talked about in this presentation is that there's some solutions that work for both mold and heavy metals. And so what I recommend starting with is doing binders, because those help with mold, mycotoxins, and heavy metals. So CitraCleanse is great. There's lots of amazing binders out there as well that you can take in combination. Like if you already have binders at home, you can use those as well and add the CitraCleanse to it. And the Catalyst Foundation also gets all different types of molds, mold mycotoxins and parasites and candida, and we'll get chemicals and toxins as well. So those are two things you can do at the same time to detox. Infrared saunas also really helpful for mold and improving immune system function and sweating out metals and chemicals. So it just depends on what for the treatment protocol for mold versus heavy metals versus parasites. I always recommend doing some things for mold, because some people that makes them very, very, very sick. So you do want to be thinking about addressing mold first and foremost. And like I said, this is one of the most effective things you can do to address mold. And when if you're not feeling better after doing a lot of the mold type treatments that you learned about on the Toxic Mold Summit or Catalyst Foundation, if you're not feeling any relief, then that's your cue. Maybe it's something else. You need to be also thinking about heavy metals. So no matter what protocol you're doing, you can always do testing for heavy metals. So you can always take a look at what heavy metals that you have, so that you can start developing a plan for detoxing your heavy metals. And so I have a link to a test that I like for heavy metals that I'll give you guys. It's called hair mineral analysis. And so this is what I recommend to you guys to address the metals. So I'll send that link to you right now. This is for heavy metals testing. So this is what I think is the best heavy metals testing out there. So you can learn more about that on this page. And when you're working with a Myers detox protocol practitioner, say if you do a hair mineral analysis and then choose to work with a practitioner to detox, they can also help you with mold and addressing mold as well, and figuring out what the best order and the best protocol and approaches to do first. But like I said, many heavy metal detox protocols and mold are very, very similar, with the binders and protocols and coffee enemas and things like that. So I am so sorry. I am losing my voice after answering so many questions. So we're going to be doing at least 1 or 2 more mold Facebook Lives, because this is a very important conversation to have. And so I asked Dr. Margaret Christensen to come on and do a Facebook Live. And I also asked my friend Robert Marking to do a Facebook Live with us as well. He's an expert on mold also. So I also wasn't able to get to very many of your questions that you guys sent in to us. So I think we're going to do a Facebook Live only answering your questions. So stay tuned. We're going to send you an email about the next Facebook Live. I do a couple of these a week. So if you subscribe to the Facebook Lives, you'll get a notification at any time that we do this Facebook Live. So please click on the subscribe button for the Facebook Lives to find us next. And really looking forward to talking to you guys again. I usually do a Facebook Live every Tuesday at this time at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. It was wonderful talking to you guys. I'm so sorry. I'm losing my voice. So I have to go, and this will be continued. We're going to continue this conversation talking about mold solutions and talking about heavy metal solutions as well. So thanks so much for joining us, and I will talk to you guys soon. And also, if you guys miss any part of this broadcast, as soon as I'm done here, you can start the video over. It might take a couple minutes for this hour-long video to upload. And you can also find the video on my YouTube channel on youtube.com/Wendy Myers. So thanks so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you again very soon.